So welcome to Lulu's Perch Permaculture Farm. So we're on 5 acres here in the Sunshine Coast, just outside of Pomona. We get like 1,600 mils of rainfall here, so we're quite subtropical. And yes, so we came onto this property and there was absolutely no food growing plants here. I think there was one bay leaf tree and an old macadamia tree, but everything else has been planted since then. We're on the southern side of the slope. I just thought I'd start here just so I can show you, get your head around the idea of a contour and what have you. But when we're doing a site assessment and doing site analysis, I like to spend my time and energy on the northern side of the block because that gets the most sun. So the southern side of the block, we're only just now starting to invest time and energy into because we've got the system at the front completed. So now we can start working down the back. But what you see here is what's called a contour swale. So a contour swale is a trench that is dug on the contour, so it's level all the way across the sloping landscape, and it is designed to capture water and rainfall and minerals and nutrients that get washed down the hill every time it rains. So the water will come rushing down this hill off the top pad or off some of these pipes here, come rushing in. It'll come down into the swale, and then the whole contour will fill up with water together. And once it gets to a certain height, all the excess water will just flow down and get captured by the next one. So this will fill up with a couple of thousand litres of rainwater, which then sits in this swale and then slowly percolates and absorbs into the landscape through this wall here. So the water will come through this wall here and it'll start to irrigate all the trees and every part of the system below. So as one big wave of water will go under the ground over a period of a couple of weeks, watering everything below it. And if you do that over a long period of time, every time it rains, there's big plumes of water going down into the system, rehydrating everything, as opposed to the water just rushing off the grass, down into a dam down the bottom and then off the property. The water sits in here, fills up, overflows, fills into the next one. So on any given rainfall event, it's very rare that all of our swales completely fill up, which is telling me that every single drop that comes off this property is being held in the landscape. And so we have big flood waters that come through, flood rains that come through. All my swales have to fill up before even one drop adds to the disaster down below. And during the flood waters, the flood event, it wasn't until day 3 or 4 of the heavy rains that our system was full. So that's basically telling me for the first 3 to 4 days, our property didn't add to the floodwaters, which is it's a great thing. It's a fantastic thing. So welcome to the top of the property, and this is where we've got 3 different types of accommodation that are up here. This used to have an older garden here, but every 7 years or so, we like to just revamp things and change things up to suit the lifestyle that we have. But this is what you'd call a zone 1 area. So it receives a high amount of foot traffic, whether you come up here with the car, bring the shopping to one of the front doors, or you're going to the washing line or what have you. It receives a high amount of foot traffic. Therefore, in the permaculture design model, we want to put components on our wish list that require lots of attention in areas that receive attention already. So if I have a zone 1 area that receives a lot of foot traffic, I want to put a zone 1 element or a zone 1 component in that site, and that is a veggie garden. So a veggie garden needs a lot of attention. The more attention it gets, the better the veggie garden is. So a lot of people will put their veggie garden or a nursery, which even requires even more attention to keep the seedlings alive. The more that element is put further and further away from the house, it becomes out of sight, out of mind, and then people think just that gardening's just not for them. That is not the case at all. The garden was just in the wrong spot. You need to put things in high traffic areas. So I'm not adding another thing to my list of chores. I'm just doing something as I'm going from one thing to another. As I'm going to the washing line, oh, there's a little weed that I might pull out. Donk. Or as I'm coming home in the car, I turn a tap and set a little sprinkler system on, and then I turn it off. It's not too far to go. Or it's pouring down rain. How far do I want to go in the rain to pull out a cauliflower? I don't want to go too far. Oh, great, it's just outside the kitchen. So having our main growing spaces in a zone 1 area is very, was highly recommended. And so we have all different types of growing here, but this will be a series of oval-shaped gabion beds. A gabion is where you use welder's mesh or some sort of steel mesh. You create the framework and you fill it with really nice stone. I'll probably be using highly paramagnetic and mineral-rich volcanic basalt. It's a beautiful red basalt that we get here in the Sunshine Coast. I'll fill all those gabions up with that. It'll look really nice. Fill it full of soil, and then it'll be like a communal garden between all the different people who are living on our farm. All right, so we're in the chicken coop area. It's nice and not too close to the kitchen, but close enough that all the food waste that comes out of our kitchen can come to the chickens. The chickens pick through it, they eat it. Chickens predominantly scratch downhill, so in the bottom of the coop we have this enormous compost pile of chicken-made compost. They scratch it all down there, and whenever I need more compost, I just go into that little corner. And then as a byproduct of that system, I can just open the little coop there. I've got 3 eggs ready to go to make a nice omelette for lunch. So creating a closed loop system of food waste to food and then back again. So it becomes a closed loop system that generates compost and soil, so we can build more gardens from that. So once we come through this gate here, we're going into a zone 3, zone 4 food forest area. We've got banana circles here and a banana circle over there. And what the banana circles do is, once we get a heavy rain in which our water tanks overflow, I open up one cap and all the water flows into a banana circle, which is about 1.5 meters deep, 2 meters wide. I plant all my bananas around that pit. And then any type of biological waste, whether it be old pallets or weeds or what have you, we just throw into the middle of the banana circle. We can stack it 10, 12 feet high, just full of stuff. And then that breaks down. The bananas all have their roots into that pit, which is getting fed water from these PVC pipes that are overflows from the tank. This becomes a big compost swampy pit that all of the bananas just suck up all the water. So we don't get mosquitoes, we don't get smells, we don't get any horrible things. The bananas just soak it all up really quickly. And I'll show you where we've been getting quite a few bananas. You can see some of the banana flowers, but because we haven't needed our bananas because we get so many, we let our parrot family eat those bananas. We're quite happy for them to do that. That's another thing of fair share, growing enough for us and then leaving enough for the local wildlife as well. Once this banana circle overflows, it comes down into this contour swale here. We fill it full of sticks just as a bit of a breakdown zone, but all the water fills up along this swale and then irrigates everything below it. So it's on contour. It's irrigating all these bananas. It irrigates all the fruit trees below, and we've even got a little market garden below that. So behind me there, you can see we've got Mount Pimbaron. It's a highly volcanic, little ancient, dormant volcanic plug there. And that dictates what all the soils around here. So all the soils around here are actually quite mineral rich, highly paramagnetic volcanic soils. And so we've got our garden facing to the north on paramagnetic soils with water flowing through it. So a lot of the needs of a vegetable garden and a food forest are actually already covered. They've got great minerals, they've got great sunlight, and they've got great water. Bada bing, bada boom. All I need to do now is just create the earthworks and the contour system to plug all of those fruit trees in and all of those vegetables into, and the system will look after itself. Designed to recline. So my garden's all ready to go. But because I've got two young children now, it's taken, we're spending time growing a family, so we haven't had the same amount of time to do the food forest and to do the market garden. But that's not to say that it doesn't work. It actually only gets better the longer I leave it. So what I normally do is here, we plant some stuff up. We use like 2 or 3 beds in which we plant stuff up. My wife has watered this probably 3 or 4 times in the 120 days it takes to grow some of this food. And that is it. The system has grown everything else from that. So we haven't had to do any inputs. And we've got big cauliflowers here. There's even like little broccoli stems popping out from underneath. Can come in here. Big crunchy cauliflower. And what have I done to make this happen? I planted it in a system that was going to help it grow. So that's for you, mate. You can have that one. And I can just like come through here. Oh yeah, another one. Like just food for days. If you grow in accordance to the patterns of what Mother Nature can provide, contour, growing soil, using pollinators, nitrogen fixing cover crops, you just grow food very, very easily. And this is, I've had absolutely no energetic input to make this. The system has done that for me. You can tell it's of high quality because the stalk here isn't hollow. So when you've got calcium and boron deficiencies, you'll find that you get hollow stems. This is a nice, juicy, wet core. So the soil quality here and the compost that we've been putting into it is absolutely phenomenal. So we're getting very, very high mineral rich vegetables. So this will be for lunch. So this is our compost engine room. We store it high in the landscape so everything can, any minerals or leachate that goes down gets captured by the system and the veggie beds below. But this is the compost pile that we built with our students. It's nice and big, made out of manure and straw and lucerne and a couple of other of the dirty 30 additives. I've got a thermometer in here, which is telling me that this pile is still active at 45 degrees Celsius. And that was 3 months ago. So it's been sitting, it was actually sitting at 65 degrees Celsius for a couple of months, and it's gone down to 45 degrees Celsius after about the 3rd month. That is temperature and energy that can also be harvested. If you put a copper coil through that compost pile and you put cold water in at the top, it'll heat up in this compost pile and you get hot water out the bottom. So there's a lot of energy and activity in here that's not just static and not just a static compost pile, but there's ways in which humans can interact with this compost pile to stack its function. So it can be a soil builder, but also could heat a barn in a really, really cold area. So if you've got all your animals in a barn, set up a couple of compost piles, hot compost piles, and you're generating the thermal energy to keep those animals warm in the middle of the freezing cold winters. So we've got one compost pile that's cooking, one that's half done, you can tell by the decomposition size, and then one that's complete. So let's have a look at a completed compost pile. So look at this, just rich black soil. Smell it. Oh yeah, that's the forest floor. But look how rich and black that is. You put that into your garden and it will be a very, 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 very happy group of vegetables. And once you've got more compost than you know what to do with, you're just setting yourself up for an amazing success in your garden. And it just allows you to hold more water in your landscape. It allows you to hold more minerals in your landscape. It just gives all your veggies everything that they need to grow big and strong. So we've got our bananas that are creating enough shade for these compost piles here. We don't water these. They're sitting just below a septic line, so they are soaking up all of that goodness. These guys are basically biological pumps. They can filter water. They can filter, human urine as well. And the only thing that I need to do to help this abundance along its way is just put a piece of wood here to stop the weight of the abundance from falling over. So we just push the tree, put a little plank to hold it, and all I need to do is just sit here and wait for these to get nice and ripe. We'll chop it down, we'll take it up to the house, put it on a little pulley system to ripen, and then we'll just have bananas. That's probably, you know, a month or two's worth of bananas. We have bananas with our porridge every day, so it's a great little thing to always have some bananas on the go. This is a 1,000 litre IBC container that's been converted into an 800 litre worm farm. I literally cut the top off the IBC, put it on, drill holes in it and put the lid back in on itself. So the lid is now chopped off and sits in here somewhere on some little cinder blocks to create a false bottom. That I put all my food scraps and all my hay and straw and what have you in there. My worms chew up all of that material. They turn it into beautiful humus. I'll see if I can find some for you. Oh. Well, there's a lot of worms in that, but they turn it into beautiful humus. And from that humus, all I need to do to harvest from this is I'll get a hose and I'll blast it with a hose, and all of the beautiful minerals will drop through and come down into the liquid holding storage area of this IBC. And to harvest that, all I need to do is open a tap and it will come out on in my drum down there. So I'm opening the tap. That should be running now. So if you focus on that, any second now, we get free worm castings. So I can just let that run, and all of those worm castings that I just blasted through the hose will come out down the bottom. Quite often I'll put 100 litres of water through a worm farm and I'll easily fill up one of these drums. But just for a small amount of gardening, I can just take all of these worm castings here, put it into a watering can and then just put it through the garden. Or alternatively, I can just extend this hose and then let it gravity feed into any one of my vegetable beds down below. So it's a very, very energy efficient, low maintenance, low skill system of just putting food in the top, water through it, collecting the goodness at the bottom. All right, so thank you so much for coming out to Lulu's Perch Permaculture Farm. If you guys are interested in doing any of our courses or consultancies or workshops, just type in Lulu's Perch Permaculture into Instagram, Facebook, or even YouTube. I've got quite a few YouTube episodes up there. But we have another course starting in January. It goes over 6 months, so it's 1 weekend per month. You learn a whole weekend full of absolute madness and goodness. You have 1 whole month to let it simmer and marinate and go practice that out in your own garden or your own community, and then you're ready for another weekend a month later. So we would absolutely love to have you on our farm and learning with us, because it is an absolutely amazing journey. We can't wait to be a part of it with you. So look forward to seeing you.